Hello, everybody. Good morning. Happy Thursday morning to you. So, what's the subject for today's live? Well, we're going to be talking a bit about, gotta get comfortable, about investment visas. And I have a lot of times where people wonder, should they do the E-2 or should they do the L-1? What's the difference? What's the benefits? Which one's more difficult? Which one's more easy? Whatever it is, the investment visa difference between the E-2 and the L-1, that's what I want to discuss to give people more of an understanding and option of which ones they should go and which ones they should choose. Okay? And then after, what I'll do is I'll go through all of the people that joined, and I will answer whatever immigration questions you have. And then when we're all done, I'll go do my regular consults off air. Okay, so let's get to it. So the E-2 versus the L-1. Okay, first, just a brief overview of the E-2 investment visa. That's where you come to the U.S. and you basically start your own business. You buy whatever you buy to start and run your own business. That's the bottom line with the E-2. The L-1, on the other hand, is when you have a business or working for a business in a foreign country and you open up or buy a branch office here. So you'll have two different offices with the L-1. One is where you currently live, and the other is the one you're either going to start or buy that's already in operation in the U.S. So what's the difference? Why would you choose one over the other? Okay, first of all, the E-2, you have to be a national of a treaty country with the U.S. And there's about 44 different countries around the world that have treaties with the U.S. that allow E-2s. So if you don't happen to be from a treaty country, well, then, your decision is made. For sure, it's the L-1, assuming you can do it. Okay, so that's the first thing. Secondly, assuming you qualify for either the E-2 or L-1, which one do you do? Okay, and there's advantages and disadvantages to both, but as far as the investment amount for the E-2 has to be what they refer to, and this is a legal term, substantial and not marginal. I usually like to do E-2s where they invest around 100,000 US. Okay, it doesn't have to be exactly that. It could be a bit more, it could be a bit less, and obviously it depends on the type of business and what's normal for the business. Now with the L-1, there's no substantiality requirement. Okay, it needs to be the amount necessary to run the business. And that's what you need to prove. So I've done L1s where the amount of the investment is literally $10,000, $15,000, not that much, relatively speaking, which is a whole lot less than the E-2. So you're asking, why not just do the L1 then? Well, remember, for the L1, you have to have a foreign business. And it, of course, has to be in operation for at least a year. You have to be of a managerial capacity for an L1A. So there's lots more requirements initially up front for the L1. So even though the investment is a lot less, the amount of evidence you have to show is a lot more initially, because you have to show the foreign company's been in operation. You have to show the payroll records, the tax records. You have to have pictures. You have to show corporate structure, all that stuff. And guess what? If it's not in English, you have to have it translated. So that does take a while. And now you're saying, well, okay, in that case, why don't I just do the E-2? Well, you have to remember that with the E-2, the amount of the investment has to be a lot higher. You have to show, strangely enough, that the income from the E-2 company is not your only source of income, and so forth. you have to also realize that if you're planning on getting the green card, if you come on an L1A, it's easier to apply at some later point for, I'm going to throw another initial at you, for the EB1C or the multinational manager visa for the green card. It's actually one of the best ways to get a green card. As of now and as of yet, there have not been any backlog on the EB1Cs, okay? The multinational manager visa. So I've talked about the money investment, the foreign, the foreign company. Now, the duties are a bit different. With L1A, it's much more important to prove you're in an executive or managerial capacity. With the E2, you have to show you're running the company, however you run it. I mean, if you're going to buy a company and stand behind the cash register, that's fine. You just have to prove what you do and that you're running the company, and that's what you do. But with the L1A, you definitely have to show more of a corporate structure. You have to show more of a managerial capacity, okay, or executive capacity. That's how that works. Next is processing. The E2 goes directly to the consulate. There's no interference or there's no, stop at USCIS for an approval in the US. I mean, you literally get the whole package and you send it off to the US consulate wherever you happen to be, okay? The L1, on the other hand, does not go straight to the US consulate. In fact, it goes to USCIS first, okay? You must have an approval from USCIS on an L1 before it gets sent to the consulate, unless you happen to be here, and then you can do a change of status from whatever you are to an L1A, okay? So let's recap. We've talked about the money investment, the duties, the processing, okay, the processing of E2 versus L1. Now, remember how I said that for the L1, it's great because then you can eventually go to a multinational manager visa for the green card? That doesn't mean you can't also do that with an E2. You could. So if you decide to get the E2, you can still apply for the green card. It's just not as smooth. It's not as easy. Okay, the L1A is pretty much the non-immigrant version of the green card EB1C. Okay, does all that make sense? All right. So I can tell you from my preference and from experience, generally the E2 is the better way to go because there's an E2 team specifically at the consulate. You can ultimately also, like I said, apply for the green card. You can proceed with the investment and so forth. So the E2 might be the better way to go. But obviously, if you're not from a treaty country, then you have to do the L1. There has been more difficulty lately getting the L1 approved because, well, everything's more difficult at USCIS. Not that you shouldn't or can't do it. It just means we have to fight a bit harder to get the L1. Okay, and it does take longer. Like I said, it absolutely takes longer because the corporate structures between the company here and the company overseas is much more important and relevant with an L1 than with the E2. Okay? Either one can be done, but these are some differences. Alrighty. Now let's go back to everybody that joined and see if we have any questions. Okay? So be patient. If anybody wants me to invite them so they can have a consult, let me know. Okay, let's see. I'm just scrolling through. We have lots of people that joined, but so far, not too many questions, which is okay. Sometimes we have a lot, sometimes we don't. But it all depends. Thanks for the likes, everybody. Okay. Okay. All right, this is from Roisin, which I got a lot of likes from Roisin, so I appreciate that. Hey, you're asking a question on the subject of the live. We're on E-2 visa in the U.S. Can we travel to Pakistan now to get it stamped? Okay, well, okay, first of all, when you say E-2 visa, that indicates you actually have the visa. So I am suspecting that's not the case. I'm suspecting what you're actually saying is you're on E-2 status, that you might have come on a B-2 visitor and you might have done a change of status to E-2, and now you want to go and get it stamped in Pakistan. So assuming that that's what you're asking, because obviously if you already have the E-2 visa, you don't need to get anything stamped. Assuming that's what you're asking, I mean, the answer is yes, you can make an appointment, you can submit everything, but you have to understand, because some people mistake this. You have to understand that you're not just going to Pakistan to get a stamp. It's like you can't just walk in the door and go, look, I got USCIS change of status approved, E-2, so just stamp my visa and I'll be on my way. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to submit a complete and full E-2 petition to the U.S. consulate in Pakistan, and they do their own adjudication. They don't care that USCIS approved a change of status. They don't care. And so with that, obviously, comes the risk that you could go all the way to Pakistan and you could submit the E-2 application. Well, that's a lot of work, by the way. You got to submit the whole E-2. And another thing, what USCIS takes as a valid E-2 is different than what is required at the consulate. And not a lot different, but it is different. The way it's presented, the evidence that's needed, all that stuff. And so there is the possibility that they would deny the E-2 in Pakistan, even though you already have it approved here, the change of status in the U.S. Understand, when you have a change of status, that doesn't mean you have the visa. And the second you leave the U.S., you no longer have that status, which means if they deny it, you're not coming back, okay, unless you do a motion to reopen. Now, let's assume you're validly in status and it's no problem. You can go to, or you can request to go to a third-party country and get it there. So I actually have a lot of clients from different countries around the world, but when they want to get their visa stamped, they can go to Vancouver, okay, to Canada, and generally they have a pretty good approval rate over there. But again, it's not just stamping. You have to prepare everything, and they have to adjudicate it from square one. That's the way it is. Okay? Alrighty. Okay, seeing if there's any other questions. It says I have 50 new messages, but I don't think I do. Okay, one sec. All right, well, if anybody has any questions, now's the time, because I'm about to head off and do my own consults that I have on Thursday mornings. Okay, be patient with me, just making sure that I got everyone who asked the question. Roisin, I'm glad you liked the live. Really. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for the questions. So what I'm going to do is sign off now. I hope everybody got one or two things from it. Oh, Roisin's giving me my... Yeah, thank you. I don't know if you can hear the noise when you give it. Oh, I appreciate that. Roisin's my fan today. Yeah. All right. So that'll do it for today. I appreciate it. Everybody have a good day, and until